This is just a crusade to try and vilify somebody as a boogeyman in the same way that they vilify Hillary Clinton and George Soros and Hunter Biden. There's always somebody that's to blame for these problems.
Brian Tyler Cohen recently appeared on Alex Michelson's show, where he went head-to-head with far-right MAGA commentator Katie Zakaria in a fiery debate. The two clashed over several major political issues, leading to some intense exchanges throughout the discussion. In this video, we're going to break down the biggest moments from their showdown, take a closer look at the most controversial arguments they made, and then I'll share my own thoughts and reactions after we've gone through the key clips. So let's get started and dive into everything that happened.
Our panel, Brian Tyler Cohen, is author of one of the best-selling books in America, The Day After, How to Wield Power in a Post-Trump World. And Katie Zakaria, Senior Communications Advisor for Truth Social and Trump Media. Welcome back, both of you. Katie, let's start with you. Republicans clearly frustrated by Anthony Fauci not answering questions. Here's some of the way they responded.
You force people to watch their loved ones die alone over the phone. It's disgusting.
During the pandemic, you got rich, didn't you? You got rich while people were dying. Here I am sitting in front of you 6 years later saying, who the f*** do you think you were for doing that?
Similar feelings?
Absolutely. Look, I lived in California over the pandemic. I had 4 kids. I was pregnant with my 4th. And I would have loved to never see Anthony Fauci on that screen again. He absolutely, all of his guidelines, closed down schools, mandatory vaccination, mask, all of it. Absolutely not scientific. And I think history will prove him to be a huge fraud. He destroyed so many lives. And I can't understand why they brought him forward, knowing that he would just plead the fifth. This is where I take a little bit of division from the party. It's like,
well, that was Rand Paul's decision.
And I love
it. To do that. Yeah.
I love Rand Paul and his book, and he's been going after Fauci for a long time. And we knew we weren't going to get answers. We didn't get answers then. We are not going to get answers now. And he's not going to be prosecuted because he has a blanket pardon from Joe Biden. So this looked like a little bit of a dog and pony show.
I mean, it was a dog and pony show, wasn't
it? Look, absolutely. I mean, we know from these Republican senators and how they've spoken that they were just looking for their moments on TV. And the fact that they have to do this by going back to 2020 and the pandemic is a testament to the fact that they can't run on anything right now. And so they had to try and relitigate some issue that they thought was beneficial to them 6 years ago. Look, the pandemic is over. I think that people are looking forward at this point. Maybe that's a controversial statement to make, that people actually want to look forward. But the reality is that if Republicans had anything better to run on, they wouldn't have to relitigate what happened 6 years ago.
But Brian, weren't there a lot of mistakes made during the pandemic that people have not really been held accountable for on any side? All sorts of mistakes that President Trump made, mistakes that Gavin Newsom made in closing down beaches, mistakes in terms of the guidelines, mistakes in terms of masks. Some of it probably most of it made in good faith, people making mistakes. But there's really been no moment of reckoning for anybody involved in all of this.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you have a once-in-a-generation pandemic, mistakes are going to be made. But when you have a situation like this, where they're trying to trot out somebody who has dedicated his entire life to public health, who is invaluable in combating the AIDS epidemic, and trying to vilify him because the right wing needs a scapegoat in this country, and by the way, refuses to look at Donald Trump's culpability in all of this, the guy that was standing on national television and suggesting that people inject disinfectant as a way to kill the virus, I mean, it puts on full display that this is not a serious investigation to look at what happened. This is just a crusade to try and vilify somebody as a boogeyman in the same way that they vilify Hillary Clinton and George Soros and Hunter Biden. There's always somebody that's to blame for these problems.
TMZ's Harvey Levin calling it McCarthyism, what's happening against Fauci. You're shaking your head.
Well, but listen, I think a bipartisan approach could be a lot of mistakes were made, and someone needs to be held accountable. My kids were told they had to wear masks, so I took them out of school, and kids don't learn reading when their teacher's wearing masks and when they're reading masks. These are actual things that happen when people are not able to see your mouth. And Dr. Fauci didn't care about that. Anthony Fauci didn't care about any of this. And one book I would recommend is The Real Anthony Fauci, which I read cover to cover. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wrote this book, and it really talks about why Anthony Fauci should never have been trusted with any of this in the first place. And I think there has to be accountability, but there won't be because of this pardon, which is why I called it a dog and pony show. But I do think people deserve answers. The gain of function research was done in a Wuhan lab, and it was leaked, and this was under Fauci. This is not conspiratorial anymore. This is all
Fauci disputes that himself, but there's some intelligence that suggests that is what happened, but that is part of it. But we did not get a clear, definitive answer on that today.
Before we move on to the next part, I want to mention something that stood out to me. Katie Zakaria spends a lot of time criticizing Anthony Fauci while defending RFK Jr., who, in my view, has repeatedly pushed claims that many medical and scientific experts have challenged. She also works for Truth Social and Trump Media, which makes her defense of those views feel even less convincing from my perspective. Alex Michelson then points out that mistakes were made during the pandemic, and Tyler Cohen agrees, saying that everyone was dealing with a situation the world had never faced before and had to make difficult decisions in real time. He admits there were certainly mistakes, but he also asks people to consider how much worse things might have been if the country had followed the approach promoted by RFK Jr. and other voices on the far right, which largely called for avoiding restrictions, rejecting vaccines, refusing masks, and letting events play out on their own. Brian argues that this strategy would have led to much more serious consequences. He also says Republicans continue to lean on these political distractions because they do not have policies that truly speak to the everyday concerns of most Americans, so they turn to what he views as political theater instead of presenting meaningful solutions.
That President Trump's support is eroding, not only with the general public, but among Republicans. Look at this number. Feelings about the rest of Trump's second term. Right now, among Republicans, just 19% say they're enthusiastic. In April of 2025, that number was 38%. So an interesting moment, Katie, because I know that there's been so much conventional wisdom about in 2028, the Republican nominee is going to be J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio. But is it possible that Republicans are starting to look beyond Trump at other options?
Well, as I said earlier, there was a poll a week ago that showed an 83% approval rating for President Trump. And then
among Republicans. Yeah. And now it's at 78%. But I mean, look, we know that there has been some slippage and his overall number is down. We also know he's very popular among Republicans, which is why all Republican primaries, it seems like he seems to be dominating.
Yes, he's dominating on the endorsements. However, I think as we look past the midterms, there are definitely some candidates to watch out for, which is you have J.D. Vance, you have Marco Rubio, and I'm starting to see kind of the surge of Governor DeSantis, especially in this Anthony Fauci testimony. He was one of the leading governors that handled the COVID pandemic well, not closing beaches, not closing schools, not forcing masks. And so you see a commentary starting to develop where he's able to actually stand on a state that is well governed. And I think that the Republican Party has three great candidates with the vice president.
I really don't think many people outside of Florida look at the state as a model of effective government. After all, the Florida man memes didn't become popular without a reason. They caught on because Florida has earned a reputation for strange headlines and controversial stories that people all across the country immediately recognize.
The state of Florida.
The governor of Florida. What do you think about this idea that maybe even the Republican Party may be looking to try to move beyond Trump?
I mean, look, the reality is Republicans have full control of government right now. Any one of these other Republicans in any other branch of government, in any other cabinet position, anybody not named Donald Trump also has the power to speak up. None of them do. They own all of this. All of these governors, including Ron DeSantis, who refuse to come out and speak against what Donald Trump is doing, refuse to speak out against these tariffs, refuse to speak out against the war in Iran, refuse to speak out against hiding the Epstein files, suppressing these files, refuse to speak out about the rising inflation rates. That puts on full display the fact that they're fine with it, or it's more important for them to pledge allegiance to Donald Trump than to actually deliver for their own constituents. So yes, there is going to certainly be a particular stink on somebody like J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio, but the rest of these Republicans who are going to run in 2028 also have the ability to speak out. The fact that none of them are willing to is a testament to the fact that it is more important to show that they're going to be willing to kowtow to Trump than to deliver for any of their constituents.
We've got 1 minute left, Katie. Do you think that the governors stink right now?
The governors across the country stink? Is that what
he's saying? Republican governors all smell bad.
I think we're having across the Democrat Party, I think we're having some major issues with the Democrat Socialists of America rising up, kind of filling in this void that.
That's strike 3 for Katie Zakaria. Anyone who keeps using the phrase Democrat Party instead of Democratic Party immediately loses credibility in my eyes. It's a childish political talking point that adds nothing meaningful to the conversation and seems more focused on scoring cheap political points than making a serious argument.
Really off-the-cuff group is emerging and really taking out some establishment Democrats. But what I also think is middle America just wants to be taken care of. The grocery prices down, gas prices down. And I think that as we head towards the midterms, I want to see the Republicans on my side and maybe for the Democrats on your side. But I want to start seeing my Republicans work harder in Congress.
Politicians are so unpopular right now that there may be an opening for outsiders on both parties. But first, we got to get through those midterms.
Jon Stewart, we're ready for you.
Brian, Katie, thank you so much. Thank you so much. You're a best-selling author. Maybe you, Brian. Who knows, Katie? Who knows?
One point where I disagree with Tyler Cohen is the idea of someone like Jon Stewart becoming president. I know plenty of people may see it differently, but just because Donald Trump came from the world of entertainment doesn't mean the solution is to elect another celebrity. I would much rather see someone who has spent years serving the public and gaining real political experience. Whether it's as a mayor, governor, senator, or in another government role, I think anyone running for the highest office in the country should first understand how government actually works. I don't want another president with little or no political experience because we've already seen the challenges that can come with that. Jon Stewart is obviously smart, talented, and has a lot of thoughtful ideas, but I'd rather see him build real governing experience before making a run for the presidency. It will also be interesting to see what happens after the Trump era, which is one of the major themes in Tyler Cohen's book. Once the party's central figure is no longer leading, what happens to the people whose loyalty is more to Trump than to the Republican Party itself? Will they naturally move their support to someone like J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, or whoever becomes the next Republican nominee? Personally, I think once Trump leaves office, assuming that happens, he may struggle to watch someone else become the main focus. I wouldn't be surprised if he eventually started criticizing the next Republican nominee instead of fully supporting them because sharing the spotlight has never seemed to come naturally to him. That also makes me wonder how many people who became politically involved mainly because of Trump will eventually lose interest and step away from politics altogether. Maybe that could create an opportunity for American politics to return to something more normal. But I'd love to hear what you think. Do you agree with Tyler Cohen, or do you believe Katie Zakaria made the stronger argument during their debate? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.